We've seen hundreds of people. And he said, well, there's this really interesting New York actor who does classics, and he might be really interesting to you. So that's the kind of chance that wouldn't happen now. Because everything's stunt casted now. Everything's about star casting. They were willing to look at an actor that no one had ever heard of, but who had the right instinct for the role and brought the character to life. I honestly don't think I would probably get the role today.
I recently did a review of the Super Mario Bros. Movie where I briefly went over one of my main criticisms for the movie. I made a comment about the film's star casting and how it results in the voice acting for most of the characters being grating and annoying. And there were some people who were curious as to why I would say that. Because Jack Black is in this movie, and everyone loves Jack Black, right? Now, yes, Jack Black is really cool, but was he truly the most go-to guy for voicing Bowser? So I decided to use this video to delve into one of the most annoyingly consistent things about a lot of animated movies today, which would be the decision to cast big Hollywood actors as voice actors for the animated characters. Over the years, there's been some debate as to how this whole thing actually started. Some say it was Disney screwing over Robin Williams during the production of Aladdin, while others say it was DreamWorks when they hired a star cast to provide the voices for Shrek. And there are also people who say that star casting has been in animated movies long before either of these instances. Whatever case you agree with, there's no denying that star casting has become a really big part of how many animated movies are produced now. Now, I want to preface all this by saying that star casting in itself is not inherently a bad thing. There are cases of Hollywood actors who prove themselves to be very vibrant and talented voice actors, like Mark Hamill as the Joker, or James Woods as Hades. Wait, am I allowed to say anything nice about James Woods anymore? But more often than not, you have cases where the celebrity in question was thrown in just because the studio wanted to make money off of them, which results in the voices being extremely generic and flat. I mean, really? Dwayne Johnson as Crypto the Superdog? It's not like DC wasn't making money off his likeness already. The problem usually comes from how these celebrities don't fit the roles of the characters they're given to work with, and their tone comes across as off-putting. This brings me back to what I said about the star casting in the Mario movie, with the two most blatant examples being Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong and Chris Pratt as Mario. Seth just sounds like every other performance he gives, with his voice coming across as really generic and awkward. And Chris Pratt is so unconvincing as Mario. I don't care that he voiced Emmett in the Lego movie, he was not a good choice for Mario. And what makes it even worse is that you have Charles Martinet as a cameo, the guy who has owned the role of Mario for 35 years, a legend in voice acting, is reduced to a cameo appearance in a Super Mario movie. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Casting Charles as an extra in the movie and hiring a Hollywood actor to take his place as his most iconic character is fundamentally wrong. It's such a random decision that doesn't benefit the film in any way. I can't say that it's Chris Pratt's fault because I highly doubt that he thought this was a good idea either. It's the studios and executives who are in charge of finding the right people for these types of movies. And the only thing that seems to be on their mind is which American celebrity will make us the most money. The thing is, Hollywood celebrities have a lot of power just by their names and how renowned they are for their movies. So of course they're gonna go with what they think will result in the most profits. And when these movies end up making a lot of money regardless, they have a warped idea as to why those movies made the money they made. People aren't watching the Super Mario Bros. Movie because you threw in a bunch of Hollywood celebrities into the cast. They're watching it because it's an enjoyable, lighthearted adaptation to a widely popular and beloved video game franchise that pays proper respect to its source material. It doesn't matter if you hire big-name Hollywood celebrities or film students from some random college, that's universally appealing. Voice acting is about the authenticity of the delivery. You have to have the right range and an inflection that fits both the design and personality of the character in question. Chris Pratt as Mario is so painfully flat. Every other minute of this movie I was picturing Star-Lord or that Jurassic Park guy because he does such a bad job at impersonating Mario. And this is only the latest in a very long string of examples. As far back as the last 25 years, animation studios have been hell-bent on cashing in on star power and Hollywood celebrities because they were too lazy to find actual voice actors. There are so many examples for me to go through that it would be impossible for me to pick just one. While I'm sure there are people who will point out animated movies with celebrity voice acting as far back as the mid-1900s, it was an extremely different time. Movies like The Lion King, The Rescuers movies, The Fox and the Hound, and the animated Lord of the Rings movies certainly had notable celebrities in them. However, those animated movies weren't marketed on the likeness of their celebrities. If anything, animated movies back then were advertised on everything but the likeness of the voice actors. The story, characters, animation, music, and even sound effects took precedence over the voice talent. They mostly relied on character actors and non-celebrity talent over big names in Hollywood at the time. Think of it as how many English dubs of anime are done today. Instead of getting someone like Tom Cruise to provide the voice of Kakashi from Naruto, they got some guy named Dave Wittenberg. I describe him as some guy because before the internet made information like this accessible, no one knew who Dave Wittenberg even was. He was a random person no one had ever heard of. Yet the studio in charge of dubbing Naruto picked him because he had the best instinct and tone for the role. Now, obviously you can say they didn't get a Hollywood actor because that was outside of their budget, but my point still stands. Dave owned the role of Kakashi masterfully because he was trained specifically in the art of voice acting. He knew exactly how to sound because he never had to worry about anything except the delivery of his lines. And I bring this up because this can be applied to so many voices of popular cartoon characters. Scott Weiner from Aladdin, Jodie Benson from The Little Mermaid, Robbie Benson from Beauty and the Beast, B.D. Wong from Mulan, Barry Ingham from The Great Mouse Detective, Tia Carrier from Lilo and Stitch, Jay Baruchel from How to Train Your Dragon, Chris Sarandon from The Nightmare Before Christmas. These are all very small-time people compared to the big leagues, and yet their work is so widely recognized because they put so much passion and love into the voices of these characters. These are people whose names you might not know, but you know their voices because their excellent performances as these characters are deeply ingrained into your memory. So how is it that someone like Peggy O'Hara is still celebrated for her performance as Belle, while Justin Timberlake...
Why won't you sing?
Because singing killed my grandma, okay?
Yeah, this isn't even a contest. The reason for this is that people like Scott Weiner and B.D. Wong were more experienced in voice acting as opposed to live-action appearances. Justin Timberlake was not. He's a good singer, but he's not a good voice actor, because all of his talent and training went into things that didn't require him to put all of his energy into line delivery for a cartoon character. The thing is, voice acting and live-action acting are two extremely different fields of work. Live-action acting revolves around working with people directly in person. The actors are trained to work off each other while standing next to each other. How to react to the other person, how to emote their bodies in fitting ways, how to adapt to the camera because their physical appearance is being presented on screen. It's not just about how you sound, it's also about how you look, and the energy you put into your body language. Now, imagine taking someone who's trained in that field and just stuffing them in a booth with a script with little to no context for the character they're voicing. This is what results in things like this.
That's a woman?
This.
You like jazz?
And most infamously, this.
It's showtime!
Even when the celebrity they get ends up doing a good job, it still feels pretentious and overwhelming because it's fucking everywhere. Most of the time it doesn't work because there's never a justification for it outside of the studio just wanted to make money off of a popular Hollywood actor. It results in the line readings being really flat and wooden. So even though the characters are well written with good chemistry between each other throughout the story, they're still dragged down by incredibly phoned in and undercooked performances. And what makes it even worse is that because of this hyper-focus on star casting and star power, it prevents people with real natural talent finding any work in the industry. At the beginning of the video I showed the late Kevin Conroy talking about how because of the industry's obsession with star casting, someone like him getting the role of Batman wouldn't be something that would happen today. And he was right. When was the last time you saw an animated movie that wasn't loaded with Hollywood actors? One where the vast majority of the characters were voiced by obscure improv students or small-time character actors. Even if you can find one recent animated movie that didn't have this issue, the sheer volume of celebrities in animated films is still overwhelming. It also makes the cast less special because there's nothing unique about it. It's just a bunch of Hollywood celebrities that have appeared in dozens of other animated movies. Think of it as star-casted movie number 29 or star-casted movie number 52. Think about Monster House for a moment. Would it still be a unique Halloween classic if they just got a bunch of celebrities for that film? Would it still feel the same way if they got Zac Efron, Taylor Swift, and Ed Helms to do the voices of the kid characters?
So, Mom, do you happen to know if there's, like, any place where I could get a real tree?
Those are trees. Real ones. They used to grow all around here.
I gotta tell you, that sounds awful.
Oh, and that's another problem with star casting. It kills the mood of animated stories when the kids are being voiced by adults, especially when they put no effort into disguising their voices. Like, maybe I could see this working if the celebrity is in their early 20s, but it starts to get out of hand when you have the kids being voiced by 30 to 50-year-olds. Their voices come across as way too deep and monotone for a kid to have, which takes away from the immersion. This is the kind of thing that's usually done as a joke, like in Family Guy or Bebe's Kids or Arthur. But when we're expected to take these adult voices coming out of a kid without any sarcasm to it, it's just not right. And I know what you might be thinking. What about Colleen Ann O'Shaughnessy? She's a 50-year-old woman and she does a great job voicing Tails. Well, yes, she does do a good job. But that's because she puts effort into making her voice sound convincing. She's a highly experienced voice actor who provided the voice for Tails for many, many years. So she has enough familiarity with the character to make his voice come across as natural for his age. Compare that to someone like Scott Wolf and Alyssa Milano voicing Scamp and Angel. They put no effort into disguising their voices or sounding younger, which results in the characters sounding awkward.
I always thought one was too many.
I could never get one to stick.
But you've got Buster.
Buster, you can't tell him. You can't. He'll kick me out.
Another example of this is 101 Dalmatian Street, where the main protagonists are voiced by Josh Brenner and Michaela Dietz, respectively. Dylan and Dolly are supposed to be 12 years old, and instead of sounding like teenagers, they sound like Amethyst and Mark Beeks. Now, Josh and Michaela are both very good voice actors and have had a lot of experience in voicing cartoon characters, but they weren't the best choices for representing these kids. It's really obvious they were only chosen by Disney because they're popular voice actors who have appeared in other popular cartoons. And this problem gets even worse when it ends up creeping into their younger siblings like Dawkins and Deepak. These two happen to be voiced by Rise Isaac Jones and Nick Hill Palmer, actors with absolutely no prior experience in voice acting.
Regular time off and longer lamppost breaks.
Bad things happen when good dogs do nothing.
I hear words, but their meaning eludes me.
I achieve my inner light, and it's cat-shaped.
And as you can hear, they're about as convincing as Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. I wouldn't mind too much, except they don't even try to make them sound like 10-year-old boys. They sound like Hank Hill with his testicles being demolished. And what makes it even worse is that they clearly had the resources to find child actors to provide the voices for the other pups. So why couldn't they do the same for these two? Were they really too lazy to do auditions for 2 more kids? In preparation for this video, I've been taking the time to watch comic dubs on YouTube, where all the voices are done by average everyday people you've never heard of, and they're actually a lot of fun to watch. Part of what helps them feel refreshing is that the people behind these comic dubs put real time and energy into voicing these characters. They're really in tune with the stories being told, and there's a lot of passion and effort placed into the voices. As I said before, it's about how the actors deliver their lines, and Hollywood actors that aren't trained to work with their voices alone aren't capable of properly delivering these lines. Every time I hear these voices in an animated movie, my brain immediately goes, oh hey, it's that guy who was in that one movie a lot of people like. There's nothing special about it anymore because it's all the same. Just get these popular people who worked on these popular movies and cast them into this movie for a quick buck. It makes the voice acting dull and less passionate because there's no reason for it other than money. Which brings me to a question a lot of people may be asking. How do we separate bad celebrity voice acting from good celebrity voice acting? Well, for that, we have to look into 2 examples that exponentially stand out. Mark Hamill and Robin Williams, who are universally celebrated for their work on Batman's Joker and Aladdin's Genie. One of the reasons Mark Hamill worked so well as the Joker was because he had the ability to completely change the tone of his voice. He trained himself to sound completely different, putting a lot of energy and effort into disguising his voice. Without prior knowledge that it's Mark Hamill, you never would have guessed that it was him voicing the Joker. That's how amazing he was at disguising his voice. On top of that, Mark is using a tone that fits the personality of the character perfectly. Joker is Batman's opposite in every way. He's a colorful, homicidal clown who worships chaos and death. The voice Mark uses for this character is the kind of voice you would expect someone like the Joker to have. A person who is dark and deeply sinister who hides his true colors behind the vibrant and silly appearance of a circus performer. He captures a wide range of emotions with him, having the right volume and expression for every scene he's in. Mark Hamill's Joker manages to be one of the most iconic iterations of the character and stands out from the rest for how much personality is placed into the voice. He's one of the best, if not the best Joker for how masterful the performance is, making Mark Hamill's portrayal less of a gimmick and more of an art. Then there's Robin Williams as the Genie. We all know how amazing and beloved the character is, but it never would have been nearly as iconic had they not gotten Williams to provide the voice. This is because, unlike other characters voiced by celebrities, the Genie was built entirely around Williams. The Genie is an animated characterization of Robin's performance as an improv comedian. Williams was highly skilled in impersonation and stand-up, and the animators wanted to personalize that into the way the genie was animated. How he moves, how he talks, how he interacts with the other characters. And by making him into a fourth wall breaker who can make pop culture references and other references to modern day elements that don't fit the story's time period, the possibilities of what Robin could do with this character were limitless. Aladdin would not be able to work without Robin Williams voicing the genie. Williams was absolutely vital to making the film work the way it does. Now compare that to most celebrity casting these days, where these cartoon characters could have just as easily been voiced by another celebrity and it would have no effect on the movie at all. It's so droll and worn out with no creativity or wit to how these actors are chosen. And in many instances, the star casting is used as a deliberate distraction to keep your mind off the writing quality of the movie. Remember how people made fun of Patrick Stewart as the poop emoji as he was thrown into the movie specifically for his namesake, with the character having absolutely no impact on the story? Well, the exact same problem can be found in Toy Story 4, with the introduction of characters like Ducky and Bunny. These two have absolutely no influence on any of the events that occur throughout the entire story and are there specifically because they wanted to use Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele for the film's marketing. Oh, but no one made fun of that because this was Pixar. Everyone loves Pixar, right? Surely they can do no wrong. What, you don't believe us? Well, what if we throw in Keanu Reeves? Everyone loves Keanu Reeves, therefore you must think our movie is a lot of fun, right? Yeah, well, that didn't stop Toy Story 4 from being a lame Woody X Bo Peep fanfiction. Studios have a tendency to abuse star power by getting Hollywood actors to play the voices of characters in animated movies that people would have otherwise had absolutely no interest in seeing. And that comes across as kind of insulting because they know that these scripts are incapable of standing on their own. So they have to take advantage of a celebrity's popularity among little kids and moviegoers. I mean, come on. Did you guys really go to see Shark Tale because you thought it was going to be a fantastic movie that would stand out as one of the best in DreamWorks' catalog? Or did you go because they got Will Smith and Jack Black to voice the ugly-looking fish? It's really manipulative and insulting to your intelligence that they're banking these movies on your familiarity with these people. The worst example is probably The Lion King 2019. Oh, gee willikers. Look at all these big-name Hollywood stars they got to be a part of this disgusting bastardization of a beloved classic. I mean, give them credit for getting actual children to voice Simba and Nala, but John Oliver as Zazu? What the fuck? Who in their right mind was looking at this character and the first thing that came to their mind was John Oliver? I mean, Seth Rogen and Bill Eichner as Timon and Pumbaa makes a little bit of sense, but John Oliver as Zazu? Why? Why? People talk about how Beyonce and Donald Glover were miscasted, but this is just an entire other level of insanity. And like I said, this is only the worst example. There's a lot of other instances of celebrity casting where it's used to distract audiences and draw attention away from the quality of the movie. Seriously, no one in the world would give a shit about Boss Baby unless they got Alec Baldwin involved somehow. They don't try to make the voices distinct or something you wouldn't experience from just watching another movie. It's just, hey, it's Dwayne Johnson as Crypto the Superdog, go watch it. And it's a completely bizarre thing to do because the goal of these corporate assbags is to save and make as much money as possible. You'd think they would want to save money by hiring a character actor instead of The Rock, unless he just wanted another boost to his ego, as if he doesn't have enough already. Aside from the fact that the industry already has a really nasty habit of treating voice actors like dog shit, it's a backwards practice because you end up accomplishing the opposite of your end goal. Instead of spending a shitload of money to get these big Hollywood names, just get someone like Billy West or Jason Marsden who would probably charge you less money. And I think what makes the decision to have star casting in a Mario movie so bad is because, well, it's Super Mario. It's one of the most popular and highly profitable video game franchises of all time. A Mario game can make millions in sales just by the fact that he's a household name in video game culture. There would be no concern for profits when it comes to an animated Super Mario movie on this scale because it's going to make a shitload of money off of both kids and Mario fans worldwide. So why did you think you'd have less of a chance unless you casted Charlie Day as Luigi? It's practically turned voice acting into a cheap contest. Instead of getting people who are best suited for the cartoon characters they're voicing and bringing them to life, let's see which group of privileged Hollywood assholes will make us the most money. It's a disservice to voice acting as an expressive form of talent. It's insulting to people who actually put a lot of hard work into their voices. It's cheap by hiring Hollywood snobs who know nothing about voice acting who put no effort into disguising their voice. And it's just another example of Hollywood's horrible mistreatment of animation, treating the cast as a gimmick instead of a crucial ingredient in bringing the whole thing together. I know realistically there isn't anything we can do to stop this because of how deeply star casting has been integrated into modern movies, except maybe to pirate these movies until Hollywood collapses from financial instability. But I figured that because of how passionate people have become about voice acting, it's important to keep all this in mind when they inevitably do something stupid like casting Tim Curry or Jim Carrey as Wario or Luigi. Honestly, this whole situation just gives me another reason to hate Disney for being a bunch of money-grubbing dipshits for how their deception against Robin Williams resulted in one of the most repetitive tropes in animated movies. So fuck you, Disney. Fuck you for ruining voice acting for everyone. And fuck your Moana live-action remake. I know it's not even out yet, but The Little Mermaid will be out soon, and if that movie is any indication, I have no doubt that this one will suck too, so fuck you. Thanks for checking out my review. If you liked what you saw here and would like to support me, check out my Patreon in the description. Every little bit helps and I always appreciate those who support my work. Until next time, stay cool.